You're watching White Mountains TV 16. For the next few minutes, we're going to be talking about backcountry in Tuckerman Ravine. I'm Chris Proulx, and my guest at this time is U.S. Forest Service Snow Ranger, Chris Joosen. Thanks for joining us.
No problem, Chris. Thanks for having me.
What is a snow ranger?
Well, our main job is, threefold. We do an avalanche advisory and hazard advisory every day from November until the end of May. We're responsible for search and rescue, managing and responding to incidents on the eastern side of Mount Washington, and then avalanche education, getting out, doing talks, spending some time with you, and just getting the word out about hazards.
So you spend your time in Tuckerman Ravine. Are there snow rangers outside of Tuckerman Ravine, or is this pretty much an exclusive area?
Well, in the East Coast, we're the only ones here in the East, but across the country, managing ski areas and managing avalanche centers, it's happening all over the West.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about Tuckerman Ravine. It's the famous backcountry mecca, if you will. Skiers flock there this time of year. We've had a little bit of an accelerated spring, so conditions may be different than people are used to this time of year. But tell us about Tuckerman Ravine. What is it? And what are some of the concerns and safety precautions you should take if you do head up into that area?
Okay. Well, Tuckerman is one of several cirques on the eastern side of Mount Washington, and each year snow blows in from Bigelow Lawn and fills it in, and that's primarily why we have snow there so late. And that flat area above it is the reason why we hold snow there longer than any other place. Into spring, we get a lot of icefall hazard. And through the whole fall, this whole area has running water in it, and it all fills in with water ice.
You can see that right here. These look like frozen waterfalls.
Exactly.
All along the top
all
of
this
the head
opaque
wall.
ice is actually blue, and it's a great place to ice climb in the fall, and then in the early winter, and then snow fills it in, covers up, and then as melt occurs, all that ice becomes exposed again, and then through the heat of the spring, it all starts falling down. So most of the ice hazard comes out of the head wall and falls down into the floor, falls into lunch rocks, and then up above lunch rocks in the sluice, all that ice kind of comes down into that area. The other main hazard is crevasses. As snow melts through the season, we start to have a lot of what's called glide cracks, and we call them crevasses because that's basically what they are. And they mostly form under the head wall, and then the majority of them are under the lip in this side, above lunch rocks. And some of the biggest ones occur under the lip and down lower, halfway between the lip and lunch rocks.
And Tuckerman Ravine, every year there are accidents that happen in Tuckerman Ravine. I know this year has been an especially bad one and tragic in some cases. Tell us about, in particular, there was one event that happened recently. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can say a little bit. We haven't had a lot of accidents, and unfortunately, of the handful we've had, 2 of them have been fatalities.
Yep.
Earlier in January, and then more recently on April 1st. So the crevasses that are usually the biggest problem for us, as I pointed out, are in this area, and that's where a gentleman did fall in. It's a very deep crevasse. The 2 deepest are basically right under the waterfall and then halfway down. And those are approximately 100 feet when they're at their deepest point, and that's where they are right now. So we responded to that. We attempted entry into the hole. We got as far as we could safely. We brought the snow ranger back out of the hole, and then it was very clear to me, in my experience over the last couple decades, that it's an unsurvivable fall in there. So basically the recovery now, we tolerate much less risk than when we're looking for and hoping to find a live person.
Right.
So at this point, we continue to reevaluate the hole on a regular basis, and when we feel like it's safe to go in there, then we will. But until then, we just continue to wait and keep risk low for rescuers.
And you mentioned risk. I know the U.S. Forest Service promotes hike safe policies. Tell us a little bit about that. How should people prepare for an adventure into the backcountry? Are there times where they shouldn't prepare for an adventure in the backcountry?
Well, between the Hike Safe website and our website, MountWashingtonAvalancheCenter.org, we try to list all the things for folks to be aware of that they need to either bring with them to have a good day, and then how the hazards change. So every day when we do an advisory, we try to point out the main risks that people face. And it's one of those things where I think a lot of folks that are return visitors they think they've been up once before, so they're all set.
Right.
And it's really important to remember that over time, every day is a little different. One day you may be facing avalanche risk. The next day it may be ice fall. And it's really important, even if you've been there, to take a look at what the new information is.
Right. Tell us about this season across most of North America, but especially here in the Northeast. It was a low snow year.
Yeah.
How has that affected the season in Tuckerman Ravine?
Well, it was, a low snow year, and then we had that 80-degree record-breaking heat wave for about a week, and we're actually above where we were 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
So we lost a lot. We were kind of thinking it was going to be the earliest season we've ever had. Then we've had 3 weeks of cold weather. We haven't melted hardly at all. And then over the last 3 or 4 days, we've gotten 2 feet of snow. So it's not over until it's over, and that's an important thing to remember. Is like now we've got all these crevasses that are covered up with some thin layers of snow. All this area you can see old gray surface. That's all covered. There's a couple little rocks now showing, but all this is now new snow and covering up hazards. So that's an additional new problem that you can't see some of those things that you're traveling over.
Yeah. Over the past week here in North Conway, it's been fairly pleasant out, temperatures in the 50s, but you look up north to Mount Washington, you just see that perpetual cloud hovering over the summit, and the temperatures are colder up there. So it didn't really surprise me when all of a sudden you guys announced you had 2 feet in the ravine.
Yeah.
Going forward, as we're recording this, it's April 12th, going later into April. What's the backcountry situation going to be like? How long are we going to be able to ski in the ravine?
Well, if you would have asked me that 3 weeks ago, I would have said it won't be long. So I'm always a little cautious to make long-term predictions. But this next 4 days, we're supposed to have really nice weather. I think it's going to be beautiful looking up there tomorrow and Saturday, seeing that White Mountain. I think, in the ravine, there's still a fair amount of snow. I think we'll be skiing for a while, particularly on the left-hand side, where we often have much less hazard. And, looking at the chute and left gully, these have much less objective mountain hazards. So we have much less ice fall, hardly any crevasses. We generally start directing a lot of people in that direction to avoid the continual worsening hazard on the right-hand side. So left gully is very often one of the last places to ski. It's still doing pretty well, and it's actually, this picture is about a week old or so, and we've got more snow in there now than this picture shows. So I think we'll be skiing for a bit.
So, but pay attention to avalanche danger, because that can rise at any time, as we saw this week.
Yeah.
And any other parting words you want to say about Tuckerman Ravine in the backcountry?
No, outside of that it's a beautiful place. It's got its risks, and you really have to take it on the mountain's terms.
Yep.
There's plenty of days to come back. I think it'll be a long season over the next month. So I think just continue to look and choose your days.
Yep.
And avoid the riskier days, and you'll probably do okay.
And if people are looking to hike to the summit of Mount Washington, even stretching into May, they should probably avoid the lip area, right? Because that's closed for a period of time.
Yeah, we're not at that point quite yet, but we do recommend that hikers do not travel through the ravine to access the Alpine Garden and the summit.
Yep.
Lions Head Summer Trail is by far the better way to do it. Much less risk, particularly descending. And of course, if you're going to use the ravine, to have mountaineering equipment, crampons, ice axe, and mountaineering boots.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, stay safe out there. Chris, you stay
will.
safe out there
I
too.
will.
And enjoy your next trip into Tuckerman Ravine. Chris Joosen, U.S. Forest Service Snow Ranger. You're watching White Mountains TV.